All right, gather your materials. This is how to use the Bolex D8L. First of all, this features a variable viewfinder to set for whichever lens that you're going to be shooting with. These numbers indicate the millimeters from 12.5 to 36. For wider lenses, there's also a little window that flips up that provides a wider angle view for lenses, for example, the 5.5 millimeter. You look through the back through the viewfinder to get an approximation. We also have a variable frame speed, frames per second. We've got a specialized red dot right before 24 that we'll be using. The camera is powered by a wind-up clockwork mechanism. You use this dial to slowly and gently wind the camera up. You never want to overwind the camera. As soon as it gives indication that it's stopping, don't force it, flip it down. This is the release actuator. When it's in the top position, it's locked, so you can't actually run the camera. In the middle position, you get single frames per second. And at the bottom, you've got your normal run position. So you'll be toggling between up and down. This has a variable shutter. When it's all the way up, you could fade the film out and fade in. However, if it's up, you're not exposing the film at all. So you want to make sure that it's down and that this little toggle is locked on there so you don't actually bump it. The camera features a 3-lens turret. The bottom 2 lenses are not being used. They're just there for your convenience. It's the topmost lens in the turret which is actually photographing. So you want to make sure that as you're making your adjustments to your f-stop and you're coming across here and you're going to set the focus on the lens, that you're doing it on the proper lens, not on one of the other 2 lenses. To be safe, you could take all the lens caps off, but in this situation you wouldn't be exposing anything because you have the wrong lens on the turret position. So put that up. The 5.5 millimeter wide-angle lens needs a special feature that you put that wide-angle adapter up in the viewfinder. So you set it at 12.5 on the viewfinder, flip up the window, and then it'll look fine. Here's how we load film. In subdued light, meaning not out on a sunny day or right under a bright lamp, you're going to open up the camera. You'll notice there's 2 spools. On the bottom, you've got the take-up spool, which has Roman numeral 1 and a Roman numeral 2. This is a mnemonic reminder device to help you make sure that you know if you flipped the film or not yet. So we're going to flip this a little gate open here with this switch. The gate has to be open to load the film through. You can see through the arrows indicating the path that the film's going to go. So it's very straightforward to follow the path of that arrow. Again, in subdued light, you're going to open up the can of film. Once you open this up, it's going to be on its own spool, and you want to be very careful not to unravel this. And you're going to put the spool down in such a manner so that it can follow the white dotted line. So here we go. Pull it just a little bit out. I'm going to place it down, press it in firmly, pull out just enough film to wrap around, and now we've got to put it on the take-up spool. The leader of the film usually has a little bit of a notch cut into it, and that allows you to push it down into the take-up spool so it gets held in there nice and can be pulled across. Wind it up a little bit on there, not too much, and then you're going to place the take-up spool back down. Have a look at everything, make sure the film's nice and flat, and close the gate. That's crucial. You must close the gate before you continue. Now you just want to run a couple of inches of film through to make sure everything's moving and looking happy. This looks good. Everything looks great. Make sure the gate's closed. We're going to close the back of the camera. And now we have to wind the film up to the first usable bit of film. There's some film that gets exposed every time when you open and flip it, so you don't want to start shooting right away. You want to wind up to frame count foot number 1. So you wind the camera up, and just with the lens cap on, just hold it down, and you're going to go up. It's going to get to 0. You're going to go past 0 to the very first dot, which is indicating 1 foot. Okay, now you're ready to shoot. So the film's in the right spot. Same thing's going to happen later when we flip it around. Of course, we're going to wind back up. Setting the f-stop on the lens. The reason why you've got a light meter is as the lighting conditions change, you go brighter place, darker place, you have to keep checking to make sure your f-stop's correct. So there we indicated a 2.8. I go to the top lens on the turret. You look for the little white line there, and as you rotate the f-stop dial around, I'm going to line up with f2.8. Matches. As you're going along and shooting, you got to keep an eye on the film counter. When you get up past 25 feet, you're going to have to flip the film over. Here you see that I've got 25-foot spool of film, and I'm up to 24 feet, so I'm getting very close. This is probably going to be my last shot on this side of the film. So as you get up to 25, you don't want to shoot a long shot there. Now I'm going to put the lens cap back on, and I'm going to just run some more film through the camera, even past 25, to make sure that I'm getting all of the film off of the initial spool. As you let it run, you see that the counter just clicks a couple of times. You can listen with your ear and usually hear the film come off of the top spool. Now again, in subdued light, you open up the camera. You see that your initial spool is empty. If the film didn't go all the way out the last little bit of the gate, you can run it, or you can open up the gate and you can pull the take-up spool off. Here's the critical part. You're on 1, you're going to flip over to 2. Of course, you sort of have to do that anyways in order to follow the white line of the path of the film, but when you see the 2 on there, that lets you know that, aha, I am now shooting the second half of the film. So the film, on that bit of film, we're actually exposing one image going in one direction, and then on the other side, the bottom half of the film, the image going by in the other direction. Once again, now taking my original spool of film, I use the other end of the leader to put it onto this new take-up spool and put it in place just as before. Okay, lock that back in place. Again, look, everything looks nice. Close the gate, and I'll run a couple of inches of film, make sure everything's good. It's critical that the film counter reset back to 0 and didn't stay at 24 or 25. If that didn't reset on you, try toggling the gate open and closed a couple of times. But when it's all happy, close that back, and once again, with the lens cap on, you got to run back up to foot 1. If you don't do this, this film, the first couple shots will be useless. Okay, to use the light meter, you've got to set the ISO of the light meter to match the film. This is 200 ISO film out in daylight, so I'm going to hold down the ISO button and use the toggle switch there on the side to go up to 200. I can either make a reading at a 60th of a second, or this meter also has frames per second, so I'm going to just go up past 1,000th of a second and get up to 18 frames per second. It doesn't have 20, but that's close enough. All right, here's our quick checklist before every shot. Must wind the camera up before every shot, otherwise you'll be very sad when the camera stops right in the middle of your action. Now you've got to set the film speed. Okay, you've done it once before, but it's easy to knock that and it be in the wrong position. I'm going to select the lens that I want to use, and I'm going to make sure that that lens cap is removed. I'm also going to have to set the viewfinder to make sure I match that lens. So it's the 5.5 lens, I've got the 12.5 set, and the wide angle window up. Perfect. Now I've got to take my light reading, check my f-stop. Again, still 2.8 here. So I come over, set my f-stop. Every time I want to make sure that didn't get knocked either. The distance to the subject, this could change quite a bit. Luckily with the wide angle lens, it's very easy to get everything from like 5 to 15 feet in. Make sure the variable shutter is open. Make sure I'm no longer in stop but in run mode. Check that I've got film left in the counter. And I'm ready to start shooting.